don't love telling this story, mostly because it makes me look like an idiot. There's a loneliness epidemic in this country. That's according to the US Surgeon General. The World Health Organization has declared loneliness a global health priority. But epidemics, pandemics, all the demics, whenever you hear about them, it's all just numbers, statistics, risk percentages, regressions toward the mean. And all that numerical data can be hard to wrap your head around. Brownies, however, edible brownies made with special organic ingredients, you can wrap your head around those little morsels just fine. But I'm getting ahead of myself. This was about 18 years ago. I didn't know it at the time, but I was beginning the longest stretch of loneliness of my entire life. I mean, I had relationships, sort of, here and there, like a smattering of lily pads on an otherwise unobstructed giant pond of suck. A swamp of suck? A marsh. A bog. A bog of suck. Where was I? Right! Rollercoasters. I had just turned 30, just moved to California, and just got invited by my cousin to join him and a few of his friends at Six Flags. Since I was new and didn't have any friends here, I went mostly to distract myself from the boredom. This was before the iPhone came out. It was a very different world. Anyway, roller coasters were never my thing, and one of my cousin's friends could tell I was freaking out a little bit, so he offered me a brownie. Well, half a brownie. I'd never really been a drinker or a substance user of any kind, but like I said, I'd just moved to California, so, when in Rome. Long story short, I took it and barely noticed any effects. Maybe I was a little more relaxed, and the roller coasters were actually fun. 2 weeks later, that same friend of my cousin's says he has a gift for me, 2 more brownies. He said, take them with friends early in the day out in nature. So alone at night in my studio apartment, I ate both of them. Yeah. Both of them. If at this point you already know where this story is going, then welcome, hit that subscribe button, you're my people. For the first hour, nothing happened. I figured it was a weak batch or something, so I called my cousin's friend. Hey man, I ate both those brownies and I'm not really feeling... You ate both of them? Yeah, why? Whoa, okay, well, prepare yourself for a ride, man. Are you out in nature? No, I'm home, but it's fine. I'm not... Okay, well... Haha, very funny. What? Hilarious, bro. You ought to try stand-up. Dick. I think I hung up after that. I don't really remember. I look back over at the TV and one of the Star Wars movies was on.
It's over, Anakin!
HBO has got to get their shit together. Must be a problem with the satellites. In orbit. In outer space. In the cold, dark vacuum. Is that the door? I'd met this girl my first week in LA. She lived a block away. She said I sounded urgent on the phone, so she came right over. I have no memory of calling her. She'd been listening to an album when I called by this brand new country singer called Taylor Swift. You're making that name up. She asks if I'm all right. I'm fine. We'd gone on a couple dates. I was 30, she was 26. We hadn't even kissed or anything. But as if to prove a point, right there in my apartment, she lifts up her shirt. She's not wearing a bra. And she just stares at me. I don't say anything for a few seconds, or a minute, or an hour. Who knows? Finally, I compose myself and hit her with my zinger. Yeah? Well, I can't do anything about that right now. Side note, this actually happened. I confirmed it with her later. LA. At some point she must have left, because the next thing I remember, I'm sitting on my couch staring at the ceiling, listening to a helicopter overhead. Anyone in LA knows there's more helicopters in this city than people. But this one sounds different. Usually it's... But this one was more... Now that bird's gonna fall right out of the sky. Then the panic begins, and I'm very aware of my own heartbeat, which, is usually... But this was more... Oh yeah, I'm definitely dying. Now I'm hyperventilating. My face goes numb. My hands are sweaty and locked in these claw-like positions, and I'm sure my heart has burst, and there's blood oozing throughout my torso, and it's gonna gurgle out of my mouth any minute now like the gunshot victim in a Tarantino film. So I call 911. I know. The fire department gets there super fast, or maybe they took forever, who knows. I'm still on the couch when they arrive, and I say, come in, like, welcome, gentlemen, what brings you here this fine evening? There's a guy in front of me shining a light in my eyes, asking questions. Do you take any medications? Have you had anything to drink tonight? Another guy's next to me, checking my vitals, relaying stats to a third guy with a clipboard, taking notes. There was a flurry of activity when they arrived, with the sirens and the uniformed men bursting through the door, but then it all distilled into this insular quiet moment between me and the guy right in front of me. Scott, I need you to focus. So I do. He says, do you have any friends who can stay with you tonight? And I say, no, I don't. I just moved to California. I don't know anyone, which if you've been listening to the story, you know is not true, but that's what I said. And then I swear, this guy deserves a medal for what he did next. He says in the most calming voice, okay, what you are experiencing right now is a panic attack. My wife gets them from time to time, and it's no big deal. No one has ever died from a panic attack. I'm going to be the first. You just have to breathe. Nice and slow. Steady rhythm. In, out, easy. It'll take about 15 minutes for your body to catch up to that tempo, but just be patient, trust the breath, and you're going to be just fine. The other guy checking my blood pressure packs up his gear. The guy with the clipboard rips a carbon copy from the form he's been writing on and puts it on my coffee table, and the most zen firefighter in the world takes a card out of his pocket, places it on top of the carbon copy, and tells me to try to sleep, but to call if my symptoms worsen. And they leave. Sure enough, 15, 20 minutes later, I'm dead asleep. When I wake in the morning, I'm groggy as hell, and I'm pretty sure everything that happened last night was a dream. But on the coffee table, there's the guy's card. And underneath it, the carbon copy of the LA Fire Department form. Of course, I'm curious, mostly because carbon paper is like a relic from the past, so I pick it up. This inky, dusty yellow paper. It had all the basics filled in, male, 30 years old, 145 pounds. And then, I shit you not, in large bold bullet points, it says, rapid breathing, elevated heart rate, no friends. Welcome to California. And that brings us back to loneliness. For years after that incident, I believed that I truly had no friends, even though I was surrounded by them. My cousin, his friend who gave me the brownies, my flasher girlfriend, apparently the first Swiftie ever. I had friends at my boring day job. I had friends at the coffee shops where I pretended to be a screenwriter. I had friends everywhere, but I didn't feel like I did. I just felt alone, lonely. And the distance between feeling lonely and filling your pockets with rocks lonely is about yay big. At 43, I met the woman of my dreams. I hit the lottery, and between her and our dogs, I never feel lonely anymore, even when no one's home and it's just me. It took me 13 years to become the man the woman of my dreams would want to be with. 13. Taylor Swift's favorite number. But like that mystic masquerading as a fireman tried to tell me, there's always a gap between making a change internally and the manifestation of that effort externally. I can't tell you how to break out of your loneliness or depression if that's what you're going through. That's what therapy is for. But I can tell you the outside world often gets it wrong because they can't see what's going on the inside. Your fate isn't written in stone. Unless it's written on carbon paper. That shit is gospel. I'll see you in the next one. It's just a gummy bear, I think. Nope. Babe, call 911.